All right, I am set up with my telephone, with my tablet to play the music underneath. I'm not hardwired for the sound, so the music is going to be a little bit faint. And we're set up with a mirror image so that instead of over the shoulder look like this, I'll be setting up like this. This drum is actually my right hand. This is my right hand. This is my left hand. And so whoever is studying this, you'll see the position of the drum. You want the small drum on the left, the large drum on the right, and the basic rhythm that I'm going to play is this. 2 hands down. Another variation would be so I got an open tone here and here simultaneously. And these are just touches. They're not open tone, they're just what we call muted tones. So this is a slight slap. My hand is actually fingertips only when I hit that muted note. And this rhythm is called Afro-Cuban, and it would sound like this in full sound. Simplifying this part for the basic sound of the rhythm because there's a bongo part that will fill in some of the grace notes in between. So the bongo flavor will be part of the overall mix. And a lot of this is going to sound playing in unison for the bongos, the timbales, the hand percussion, because the pulse you want is boom to bop, boom boom bop, boom to bop, boom boom bop. Gong bap, gong gong bap. That's the simplest form of this. Other forms would be boom to bap, bap, gong gong bap, gong to bap, bap, boom boom, baka to bap, gong gong bap, bap, gong gong, taka to bap, gong. But the bongo is going to play the taka taka gong bap, dong dong, taka taka boom bap, gong gong, taka taka gong. So for the bongo part, he would be playing similar to this. It's that accent on the bongo and on that shadow is the same accent here. Boom, 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 or they could play the same pattern if you don't develop the full rhythm as I just showed it. Other parts, if you have maracas available, he'll be playing the same rhythm. And the first stroke is down together. So, boom, go back, boom, boom, back, boom, boom, back, boom, boom, back. So this is my right hand. So, boom, right, left, right, boom, back, boom, boom, back, boom, boom, back, boom, boom, back. See, I'm just dropping the maracas. And my thumbs are also incorporated into getting the sound. So it's a very subtle thing. It's not a big swashbuckling thing like this. Down, right, left. Down, right, left. Down, right, left. Down, right, left. So boom, boom, bop, boom, boom, bop, boom, boom, bop, boom, boom, bop, boom, boom, bop. A variation would be boom, boom, bop, 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 boom, boom, bop. And so the only difference, I'm adding another note. So boom, boom, bop, boom, boom, bop. And the variation would be boom, boom, bop, bop, boom, boom, bop, bop, boom, boom, 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 bop. Another variation to accompany that part would be boom, boom, bop, bop, boom, boom, bop, boom, boom, bop, bop, boom, boom, bop. So it's boom, boom, two downstrokes, boom, boom, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, boom, boom, bop, boom, bop, boom, boom, bop. A variation would be boom, boom, bop, bop, boom, boom, bop, boom, boom, bop, bop, boom, boom, bop, boom, boom, bop, bop, boom, boom, bop. It's a different stroke because you have to be familiar with how it feels to get the upstrokes and downstrokes where you want it to be. So the simpler part would be down, down, up, down, 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 and that leaves space for boom, 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 daka, daka, bop, boom, boom, bop, boom, boom, bop, and it leaves space. And so they're almost playing all in unison for all these parts. And I'll get to the timbale part later. But now I'm going to just sample it in with the music. So I'll pause this and get the music squared away. All right, here we go with the music, beginning with the intro. That section later. Okay, for the timbale part, this side drum on your screen is the high drum. So on timbales, it's set up like timpani with the low end drums going to your left, piano style. and the high drum up here. There's not a lot of timbale parts in here, but it can accompany the drum and percussion section playing the cascara, which is the shell of the drum, not the cymbal. So I'm playing the shell of the drum on the side, which you cannot see. But I want you to see the left hand. So basically, I'm the low and left drum we call playing the hembra, which is the female voice of the two drum side. The macho, male, being the high drum, and the female being the low drum. And this is the same when in regards to bongos. The high drum is the macho, and the low drum is the hembra. So what I'm doing is I'm playing the left hand, shadowing the tone of the low end conga, locking in with him, playing in unison with him, and it lands with the bass. So I'm going. A variation of that would be. There are sections where if you want to pick up to the next dynamic level, the cymbal ride can substitute for the cascade ride. Same pattern. Here, so you see. Variation would be. Really don't have to incorporate the timbale bells into this section at all because there's no bell in the section. They save the bells for different segment of the arrangement. But that it would sound like this if you did it. A variation would be. And what I'm doing is I'm voicing the same low, high, high, low, 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 high, high, low, low, high, low. This is characteristic of the Afro-Cuban rhythm that is stated in the arrangement. Dum to ba ba gum gum ba, or boom to ba ba gum gum ba, gum go ba ba gum gum ba, which is a variation because this rhythm is usually stacked with several drummers playing different parts of the same rhythm, and so it makes a fabric of rhythms with different people assigned the accent and other people just playing the fundamental tones, which gives it the flavor. Oh, another variation would be, in the course of this rhythm, there are places in the arrangement where just a little highlight or on the bell. On the second portion of the arrangement, after the rest, what they're doing, they're coming in with the section that on arrangement it says rumba. Well, actually, there's no such thing as rumba. That's a very Americanized term and mispronunciation, misspelling of rumba. Rumba means the party. Like if you were to say rumba flamenco, that's a party for playing flamenco in the rumba fashion and rumba rhythm. Same applies to the Cuban rumba. And the rumba normally is 3 drummers, 1 drummer per drum, knitting different parts together. But in this case, we're going to synthesize it, and we can break it down into separate drummer parts when I come there and actually perform or rehearse with the students. And so what that rhythm is, up to tempos, and it can be more complicated. But to leave room for the bongo player and to simplify this part so you'll hear the basic rumba part, and then it leaves room for the bongo player to be heard and all the other percussion parts to be heard more cleanly, and not to complicate things for the rhythm section and horn section. We're just going to play. So you're playing open tones. Touch, touch, boom, 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 touch, touch. It's almost all right-hand player parts. Because if you don't have technique to play congas, you can't really incorporate the left hand correctly. So the left hand is pretty much playing grace notes, unless you want to divide it up like this, like we did on the Afro-Cuban side, where one hand plays one drum. Each drum has its own hand. So you could play a wawanko, like the rumba wawanko, like. As long as you're in time and everything's locking together, that's appropriate. If you want to play the split part, like that, where you're splitting the drum between right hand. And I'm just touching for time. This is a grace note. So it's answering boom, 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 touch, touch. Have to be very audible. It's just to help to keep the drummer's hands in time. If I was to have 2 drummers playing different drums, this one drummer on the bottom drum, the low drum, so what I'm doing here, I'm just touching in the middle of the drum. It's a grace note. It's kind of like a bass tone rather than a more open tone, because you want the open tone to be the fundamental note that you're playing. So with that this guy's playing, the other guy on here, boom, 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 boom. See, he's answering. Writing grace notes for time. I'm touching time. So otherwise I could be playing. And of course they're playing it faster. A lot of voice to draw out of the drum, a lot of different tones, but to keep it simple for the drummers who are novice in hand drums, all you really have to do is place the open tones. And then a faster tempo would be. And then using your left hand to count the beats in between, because your right hand can't play every count. Now, the bongo part, I'll grab bongos so I don't have to pause anything. Again, the positions of the bongos will be as if you were sitting here playing the instrument, you would have the high side on your left, the low side on your right. And at this tempo, what the bongos playing is a rhythm called martillo, which means little hammer. And that rhythm is usually this. And play fast as but that's because I have technique, I can exploit those tones. So for a basic drummer, all he has to do is shadow what the congas is doing. These are just tack, tack, tack. And that part can also be finger on the edge, which allows the head to resonate more. Or you can just, if you're just playing finger technique, you get a full voice out of drum. It's the left hand that has to be familiar with the feel of the rhythm to be able to play all the parts. So to simplify it, if you don't have the technique, is play the basic tones. So the congas are playing the same. So it's basically what the bongo player is playing in context with the arrangement on this section, the rumba. Typically the rumba part underneath the congas, there's a little bit of ad-lib that goes on and accentuation on the bongos, and that's the role of the bongo player in most Latin music that has an ensemble of percussion. The bongo player plays all the spicy stuff for the most part, because everyone else is playing support of the basic rhythm, and there can be interplay in it, but it has to be in context where everybody's familiar with each other's role and each other's rhythm, and how to fill the spaces in there without simultaneously doing rhythmic variations on top that are more competitive with each other rather than embellishing the overall. So this rhythm, martillo, a lot of times in a rhythm like this, where the conga is playing, this guy would just ride the martillo and ride that rhythm for that 1E and a 2E and a 1E and a 2E and a 1E and a 2E feel. So but I don't expect a novice player to be able to execute that. So if all he can do is lock time in unison with the conga, and then the other parts will come into play. Another part, if you have maracas, I told you earlier, the Afro-Cuban one would be boom, boom, ba, ba, boom, boom, ba. But by the time we get into the rumba, he has to play 1E and a 2E and 1E and 2E also. So he's going 1E and a 2E and a 1E and a 2E. But that's hard for a novice to synchronize. If he's just playing a shaker or playing one maraca, he's just going 1E and a 2E and a 1E and a 2E and the action is always on stopping the maraca, 1E and 2E, and so it helps you count. You know that the front of the measure is up on top, and you're coming down. 1E and a 2E and a 1E and a 2E. Get it started like this, you get familiar with what the maracas are doing. Then as you speed it up, you're limiting all this movement and you're just keeping it in your wrist. And if you get synchronize the left hand in it, they're opposite of each other. Another variation on this instrument is called the Fouché Cabasa, where we're holding it in our left hand. We're using our right hand to spin it. So on the Afro-Cuban side of the rhythm, it would go boom, da, ba, ba, boom, boom, ba, boom, ba, 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 boom, boom, ba. And what I'm doing is I'm releasing it at the end of that figure so I could re-grip it, because I got to be able to spin it, and I'm spinning it toward me. So I'm going boom, da, ba, ba, boom, boom, ba, boom, da, ba, ba, boom, boom, ba, boom, da, ba, ba, boom, boom. On the faster part, it's 1E and a 2E and a 1E and a 2E and a 2. Like a choo-choo train. 1E and a 2E and a 1E. It adds locomotion to the whole rhythm and helps knit everything together when it's played in time. Another variation is just to shake it. 1E and 2E. But all this percussive stuff requires enough practice that you can hold your part down and play it without being fatigued. You can simplify the part in the double time of the rumba. Just measuring out 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2. Boom, boom, boom. It just helps push it along. And if you're playing maraca guiro, remember earlier on the Afro-Cuban, I was going on the faster section, a guiro player would be going, but you have to have the finesse and the muscle memory to execute that rhythm. So you could also just play. And the reason why I'm accenting that and it's not a continuous pattern is because it's in relationship to clave. And what clave is the not only the instrument, the two sticks, but it's the rhythm. So this would be boom, 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 boom. So the reason why those parts are written at that rhythm is because it synchronizes and it references clave. And when it's in the rhythm of just coming in, the clave part. That's how they're playing it on the record. Sometimes they have a thing called rumba clave, which but that's another clave pattern, and it has a different approach to it because it accents differently. So. 1 and a 2 and a 1 and 2. You're just going 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 2. So as long as the pattern is locked. And so those are rhythms that would be typical accompaniment for this arrangement. We don't necessarily need a bell player, and we don't necessarily need a clave player, but if we did have a clave player, if I can break out my claves, where did they go? Can't find my claves, so I'm going to use a wood block or a bell. Let's imagine this is the clave, or the wood block, or the plastic jam block. but we're not going, not open tone with the bell. We're choking the bell just so we get a more woody sound, more staccato. That's how that would fit. And if it's on the congas, in other words, they're playing on the clave. A lot of other rhythms and like mambo and salsa, it'll be ba 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 ba. So they're playing on the other side. They're not shadowing clave. They're using da da dum 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 da 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 dum dum dum. They're like answering, so it's like a call and response. In the case of rumba clave, ba 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 ba. They would play the rumba like da da. That's another thing. I've been playing the wawanko with single note on the low drum. Quite often, they'll use variations where they double on the low drum. Or they'll alternate double and single. And having the fluidity of which hand can execute the stroke, of course, helps, but that takes time to develop as you study the conga drums and how to execute all the tones. So that's way too complicated for what we're doing today. So we're keeping it simple. Kind of like, sounds more like rhythms you would hear in Santana's early recording of Latin rock jamming. They kept it simple too because they had a drum set player, they had guitars, and they had a lot more going on. And so they kept the pulse simple. They weren't trying to play traditional Cuban. They were playing a fusion in their introducing parts that fit their overall rhythm combo. So I think that's about it. Everything else I have to do in person with everyone, but at least you have a reference. And getting back to the reference on the Afro-Cuban, and the variation was. What I'm doing, I'm going both notes with both hands, open tone. So I'm going boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, boom, bap. There's many variations to play on that single rhythm. since this rhythm, the conga player, I noticed, is putting the accent on his left hand on the smaller drum. That's the accent. It's hard to feel these rhythms when you're playing it independent, to have the slap tones or just a touch tone, because you don't have to take the slap tone. It's hard to execute if you don't have experience with all the tones. Because all this left hand ride and right hand rides are something that needs to be developed through practice and executed in context with the music. So we're keeping it simple, but I wanted to offer the variations anyway, because you could play the whole tune. Or you can just go. And the drum, the timbales with mallets can also play the same rhythm, and playing on the cascara, or just playing on the if the other parts are played, the hand percussion parts, like maracas or the guiro or the afuche, that goes like this, then it fills that dry space and that texture, and so we can focus more on the tones that are kind of shadowing what the bass is playing. It's landing the same and has the same pulse, going from measure to measure. See, that's my accent. Well, I hope that's been helpful, and I hope my recording is audible. I will see. Maybe I should just pause this and we'll play one more time with the music. Here we go. On the rumba part, I did some variations on it, and I was referencing what we call the tumbao, the basic rhythm of this drum, and at that tempo is when we call it mambo. There's just so many ways of playing this same arrangement depending on the instrumental lineup and how you want to assign the drums. A lot of times you could have some guys playing, and this guy's playing. Boom, 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 boom. Boom 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 boom. And this drum where I'm putting that beat is actually where this beat is. And he's just playing one note. He doesn't have to play like, he doesn't have to do that. It's all up here. So because it's so fast, we got to simplify the part and see what everyone can execute, and then assign the person that can execute it to the role. That's a difficult thing to do when you don't have hands-on experience, and it's certainly not if you're going to play. And so it's a challenging arrangement for sure. But it's a beautiful arrangement. I would just take note of the dynamics and where you want to assign the timbale player to hit the cymbal or to do anything else that's an arrangement that you want to make sure you insert into it or omit for simplification, just to help lock it up, because time's more important than all the embellishments. In other words, all the embellishments are an action is the icing on the cake, but it's the rhythm lock that is the cake, because that's what's going to carry the bass line, the rhythm section, and the horn arrangement. All right. I hope to see you all soon. Ernesto Petty Uncle checking out. Bye-bye.